What's going on, y'all? This Pedo back with another book review. Today we doing How to Win at Your Breakup. I promise you, we're going into a new year. If you got any lingering issues from past relationships that you're trying to get through, you're trying to get over, you're trying to be done with it going into the new year, I got some heat for you. I got some keys. I got some tools. I got some things that would definitely work if you're willing to give me a moment of your time and listen to what I got to say from this book. This book is amazing. It's a great read. It really put a lot of things in perspective in my life. I'm recently single. I've been working through a lot of different things. Well, not recently. I've been single for a good amount of time now, but I've definitely dealt with my own breakup issues. So this book really helped me at the time that I'm going through what I'm going through, or where I was. So it's definitely a good read, man. If you have read it, let me know what you thought. It's Pedo back with another book review. Let's get it. Yes, sir. All right. So the first thing in this book, Win at Your Breakup, she gives you a strong reminder. Remember who the fuck you are. I love it because you forgot clearly. Not about accident, though, because you gave your heart in a time where almost nobody gives anything real anymore. And y'all know that. That's why dating so hard nowadays. She reminds you that what you did is rare, especially nowadays. You showed up with honesty, loyalty, and you was vulnerable in a world full of people who swipe, ghost, leave breadcrumbs, disappear when it's the most inconvenient time possible. Like, bro, I needed you. But here's the twist, though. Your heartbreak, it isn't proof that you was wrong. It's proof that you are valuable. And let me explain why you're valuable. You risked something. You invested something. You bore debt to a generation that runs on surface level energy. Pimp, you really out here doing your thing. These motherfuckers don't realize that. This is what she basically saying. Stop acting like you lost. You're the gift. You are the rarity in this time. You were the things they wasn't ready for. And once you remember that, this whole breakup stopped being a boom and it start becoming a turning point for you. You really start getting on your square, start getting on your job. You realize they knocked you off your path, but you about to get back on it, pimp. Because winning at your breakup, it don't start with revenge. Revenge, we ain't even knowing that time. It starts with identity. We reclaiming the version of you that existed before you started minimizing yourself for someone who couldn't even match you. Couldn't even match your capacity, pimp. Feel me? All right. So number 2 at Winning at Your Breakup, the author explains something that most people don't realize until they're in it in that moment. Mourning a relationship is hard as hell because we're not taught or built how to mourn somebody that's still living. When someone dies, there are rituals, there are timelines, and a social permission to grieve. But when a relationship ends and a person is still alive, they still on the gram, they still just a text away, yet the future you imagine with them is completely gone. And that creates a type of grief in your brain that the brain don't know how to process, pimp. It's crazy if you really think about it. The author explains that after a breakup, you're not just missing that person. You're mourning the loss of a future. The routines that you identify with you had in that relationship. You're grieving someone who still exists. They're right over there. And it's crazy. And this confuses the nervous system. There's no funeral for that life you thought you were going to have, that life that you were building. No ceremony for that version of yourself that you believed that you was in. So instead of grieving, people suppress or distract or kind of rush to remove yourself from it. You just have to move on. And I know that sounds simple, but it's the truth. The problem is unprocessed grief doesn't disappear. It shows up as anxiety. It shows up as obsession, anger, and self-blame. And the author makes it clear that healing doesn't come from pretending that you're fine or trying to be strong. It comes from allowing yourself to mourn something that mattered to you without minimizing or shaming yourself for still feeling it. It's okay that you're going through this, bro. I promise you, it's okay. Because once you stop fighting that grief and actually let yourself process the loss, the breakup, and stop feeling like something broke you, you become something you survive. Something you learn from, and something eventually you're going to outgrow. I promise you. The first thing you need to do is remember who the fuck you are. And I love that about this book. Promise you I do. You know how rare it is what you've done? You gave your heart in these days and times. I ain't even got to explain that. Especially nowadays. It's wicked out here. You know that. So, in When It's Your Breakup, she don't sugarcoat this part. Going back is one of the most embarrassing things you could do after a breakup. Not because it makes you weak, but because desperation rewires your perception of what's really going on. When you're desperate, you start believing in a pulse that don't even exist anymore. You mistake being familiar for love, nostalgia for compatibility, and loneliness of a sign that you should return. We're not doing that. The author explains that desperation makes you romanticize what already proved couldn't sustain you. You convince yourself that things are different. They're not. That times will be healthier. They won't. That the patterns won't repeat themselves, but they will. Even though nothing meaningful has ever changed, you're not responding to the reality anymore. You're responding to withdrawals. Your brain is craving for relief and not the truth. It wants a relief from this pain and this hurt. But remember, everything else we read, they say pain is beautiful. And the harsh reality is this. When you try to bring something back from the dead, everybody sees it. Your friends notice it. Your family notice it. Even the person you're going back to can feel it. You're not rebuilding a connection. You're performing CPR on something that's already flatlined. CPR on a dead thing. And you no longer stay. You just reinforce the idea that your standards are negotiable. Just because you're afraid of being alone. And I know it ain't easy. We all there. I promise you I know it ain't. But the author makes it clear. Self-respect isn't loud or dramatic. Or emotional sometimes. It's quiet. It walks away even when your heart is begging you to turn around. And you know that feeling. Because real embarrassment isn't leaving. It's abandoning yourself to keep something alive that no longer chose you. It didn't choose you, baby. Gotta keep it pushing. So in When It's Your Breakup, the author explains how we allow our hearts to take our intuition hostage. Deep down, we already know the truth. But once emotion gets involved, that logic gets muted. That's when we stop trusting what we know. Defending what we feel on our intuition, we start ignoring that as well. It's still speaking, but the heart keeps interrupting it with the hope that nostalgia would kick in and be that what if, that bullshit. The fantasy version of the person we convince ourselves is coming to save us, fix us, or finally show up to be what we need instead of seeing a relationship for it actually was or is. We're over romanticizing it. We edit out the disrespect. We minimize the inconsistencies and we rewrite the ending in our favor. And it's just a story that we tell ourselves to avoid accepting that loss. We gotta let it go, baby. And this is where that pedestal thinking comes from in the book. She make it clear. The moment you put somebody on a pedestal, you automatically knock yourself off of yours. Think about that. You start shrinking to keep them comfortable. You excuse behavior you would have never accept from anybody else. You call it love, but in reality, it's self-abandonment. You cut yourself short just trying to put somebody else up there. In certain instances, she reminds us that clarity doesn't come from loving harder. It comes from seeing clearly, knowing clearly, and not hoping. Remember that you showed them who you are, and you wish they would become the person that you are. You show them the same love. Because the moment you stop romanticizing the past and reclaim your own pedestal, your intuition is no longer held hostage, and your power becomes back online. Be careful who be putting up on these pedestals above us. For real, because some people going to take advantage of that shit. And you know it, just like I know it. And you've done it, just like I've done it. And we got to do better. So in When It's Your Breakup, the author reframes being alone in a way most people would never really think about it. She says being alone isn't a failure. It's proof that you finally putting yourself first instead of negotiating with your worth. Just to avoid loneliness. Choosing solitude after a breakup isn't about isolation. It's about refusing to betray yourself for temporary comfort. You already know. She explains that when you stay busy chasing attention, situationships, or consistent validation, you are not healing. You're numbing yourself. Being alone forces you to sit with the discomfort long enough to actually understand it. And that's where self-trust starts to rebuild. When someone wants you again, but when you choose yourself, even when no one is watching, that's what we talking about. And that's what we want. She also warns about being too available to your triggers. Every text you reread, every profile you check, every place you go hoping and running into them. Those ain't accidents. Those are self-inflicted setbacks. You're reopening the wounds and calling the curiosity. She makes it clear that healing requires distance, not just discipline. You can't recover while consistently exposing yourself to the things that keep setting you back. Trust me, I know. Trust me, I know. Being alone then becomes an act of self-respect. It's saying, I don't need attention. I don't need to be chosen to feel whole. And when you stop being available to them triggers, you stop reliving the breakup. Trust me, you stop reliving that shit and finally start to move beyond it. She has a quote in here. Live your life now that most people won't, so later you can live your life that most people can't. And that comes from, I think it's Dave Ramsey. I think he has that quote in one of his books. I've read it, but I just can't remember right now. But y'all feel it. So at When It's Your Breakup, the author talks about what happens when you don't properly use boundaries with people who benefit from your availability. She explains that people will take from you as long as you allow it until they level up, until they feel secure, or find the next person that believes that they're better suited for them. And the hardest part is, not everyone does it maliciously. Some people do it intentionally, of course. Others do it unconsciously. But the outcome is still the same, regardless. The author makes it clear that intentions doesn't erase impact. Someone knows they're using you or not, you're still the one left depleted. You're still the one over-explaining, over-giving, overextending, hoping for some consistency will earn you some commitment without boundaries. You're quietly teaching people to take your time, your energy, and your emotions, and your labor are unlimited. We don't want that. She emphasizes that boundaries aren't punishment. They aren't ultimatums. They're limits. They communicate what access to your cost. When they don't send people and you suddenly become more considerate, they simply take what's available. And when they no longer need you, they move on, leaving you, questioning your worth instead of your lack of limits. Start questioning everything. You don't stop being used by demanding more from others. You stop being used by demanding more from yourself. When you set clear boundaries and you enforce them, you protect your energy, you protect your dignity, you protect your healing. And anyone who cannot respect those limits was never meant to be this level or have this level of access to you in the first place. You feel me? These motherfuckers are out of here, pimp. And When It's Your Breakup, she talks about the real power of boundaries is when they tend to piss people off. She explains that the moment you start setting limits, certain people will get uncomfortable, defensive, or even angry. And their reactions is a sign that you're doing something wrong, but it's not. It's proof you're no longer easy to access or use. People don't like that shit. She makes it clear that boundaries expose intentions. Those people who respect you all along just adjust. I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. Those people who benefit from your lack of limits will resist. When someone gets upset, when they get mad at your boundaries, it's usually because those boundaries interrupt what they're trying to take from you. You feel me? Trying to take from your time, trying to take your attentions, trying to take your emotions, trying to take your labor, even your availability. She reframes that in a powerful way. Boundaries aren't meant to keep people comfortable. They're meant to keep you safe. And when your standards start running people off, it's not a loss. She encourages you to feel proud when your boundaries shrink your circle, because people who disappear, it's never meant for you in the first place. When they only here for what you provide, and the moment you stop over-giving, stop over-explaining, stop overextending, you start attracting the people that's here for you who they really are. People that's really here for the person that you truly are. And When It's Your Breakup, she explains that one of the most common traps after a breakup is chasing crumbs. She explains that crumbs look like late night texts, inconsistent attention, vague promises, and access without commitment. And the danger isn't just a waste of your time. It slowly trains you to accept less than you deserve. It's clear about that. The author is clear about this. When you chase crumbs, you're telling yourself enough, that partial effort is enough to earn full access to you. You start negotiating your standards to even feel like you want it again. You respond faster, you expect less, and you tolerate confusion because at least it's something. At least it's something coming, but something isn't a connection. It's just emotional survival mode. She also talks about people dumb themselves down for sex, for validation, for temporary closeness. You're expressing your real needs. You laugh all disrespect. You pretending you cool with the bullshit that don't actually feel good. All this is to avoid to be seen too much. You start shrinking yourself to see that somebody don't value you, and we can't do that. All that to avoid being seen as too much. By shrinking yourself doesn't mean someone values you. It just makes it easier for them to take advantage of you. It's a firm message. It's an imbalance. When you stop chasing crumbs and refuse to reduce yourself for temporary pleasure, you don't lose opportunities. You eliminate distractions, and what's left for space is something real, mutual, and worthy of you and your time. You feel me? And when it's your breakup, the author points out most people try to avoid. This isn't the time to obsess over what they did wrong. It's time to look at honestly what you did wrong. Not to shame yourself, but to take your power back, because all of this focus stays on their mistakes. You stay stuck as the victim. That's your story once you stay there, instead of the author and changing it to the next chapter. She explains that real healing starts with self-accountability. What did you ignore? What red flags did you look past? What did you overextend? What did you settle for? What self-abandonment you did? Why did you stay so long? And why? You've been avoiding all of these questions because it feels easier in a moment to put the blame on everybody else. But it doesn't guarantee growth. It doesn't come from being right. It comes from being aware. So we got to be more aware of the mistakes we made and stop, pointing a finger at everybody else and look inward. She also warns again about jumping to conclusions about the person leveling up. Just because you move on quickly, post happiness or Instagram stuff, it doesn't mean that that person has evolved. Even if they're in a relationship, some people just don't change their environments and their patterns and all of a sudden heal and level up just because they into something new in 2 weeks. Nah, they probably taking that same person through the same shit they took you through. So let's not jump to conclusions about what we see other people got going on. You feel me? And it's a reminder that we have to monitor our progress, not somebody else's, and self-respect on ourselves. When you focus on patterns instead of the behavior, you start competing with ghosts. And when it's your breakup, the author explains settling does not usually happen because you know your worth. It happens because you are exhausted. You had enough of disappointment, you had enough of being lonely, and you had enough of emotional strain. Desperation starts to override intuition. You don't stop suddenly knowing what's better. You get tired of holding the line and just be like, yo, whatever, man, just give me something. The author points out that desperation is sneaky. It convinces you that your peace found in familiarity, that's good enough or is safe enough, and that being alone it ain't even worth it no more. It kind of makes things unrealistic. So you end up choosing comfort over their compatibility, access over alignment. No. She reminds us that exhaustion can make even stronger people betray themselves. When you're depleted, you start rationalizing behavior you normally walk away from. Like, it's cool, whatever, because you're just tired. You tell yourself that it's temporary and that it could be worse, but you're asking yourself too much. But intuition doesn't disappear. It waits. And every time you ignore it, the call shows up later as resentment or regret. So be careful with the settling. I promise you, be careful with it. Her message is simple. You are so much better than what your desperation wants you to do. Rest, solitude, self-respect are not setbacks. Those are safeguards, because the moment you stop making decisions from exhausting, settling stops being an option and alignment becomes the higher standard. You with me on that, right? When it's your breakup, the author talks about the exhausting habit of trying to educate, enlighten, and finally get your ex to understand. She explains that this urge comes from that belief that they really understand your pain. You want them to understand your intentions. You want them to value things so maybe they would feel different. Understanding you does not equate accountability and awareness. It doesn't guarantee change. It doesn't change anything. It makes it clear that explaining yourself over and over is a form of self-neglect. You pour energy into crafting messages, revisiting conversation, and rehearsing points that's already been proven that they don't want to receive. And every time you do this, you reinforce the idea that your healing depends on other people's comprehension. Fuck that. Get away from that. I promise you. She reframes this powerfully. Everything you're trying to give them, this clarity, this patience, this compassion, this grace, is exactly what you owe yourself right now. Instead of convincing them, redirecting that energy inward. Educate yourself about your patterns. Enlighten yourself about what you need. Learn what you overgave and give it back to yourself. And start protecting ourselves and bringing that shit inward. You feel me? Reminding us that closure, the author, she reminds us that closure doesn't come from being understood. It comes from self-respect. And when you stop trying to be heard by someone who isn't even listening, you start listening to yourself instead of needing to explain why they disappeared. So that's when we stop seeking that validation from people that didn't show up for us in the first place. We got to do that. We got to focus and go inward. You feel me? Especially for our future. You feel me? And last one that I wanted to talk about in this book, When It's Your Breakup, she would talk about that I miss you tech and why really people think it is what it is. She explains that most of the time it's not a declaration of growth, clarity or intentions. It's a temperature check, a quick pulse to see if you're still available, see if you're still emotionally open, see if you even respond, basically to see if you're still stupid. She's blunt about this. This message is often just a test to see if access still exists, not the environment to repair or to confirm or to show you that they love you. It's just to see if you respond, just to teach you like, oh, I still got access to you, just to enter your life without changing anything. And that caused, especially stuff that caused the breakup in the first place. So no. Let's not even respond to that. She also warns about accepting that demotion, staying friends or being casually or just fuck buddies and shit like that. We not doing that. Stop. No. We're not playing that. It's basically self-sabotage. You're telling yourself that you can handle it, but what you're really doing is keeping an open wound. You're close enough to get burnt, but that's not enough to be chosen. We're not fucking with that. It's clear. Your feelings are still involved. This kind of access is playing with fire. You don't heal by standing in the same place that you got hurt. You don't protect yourself. You don't protect your heart by pretending you're unaffected. Declining the emotions is bitterness, but it's a boundary. It isn't bitterness, but it's a boundary. So we're not accepting any demotions, because the real power move isn't proving you're still reachable. It's showing that access to you now requires consistency, intentions, and respect, or it don't exist at all. That access. You feel me? So in conclusion, this book is amazing. I love this book. It really helped me with a lot of things, and it really spoke to me personally. I promise you. But it also ultimately make things clear in this book. Not getting over someone is about getting yourself back. Every lesson, every boundary, every hard truth points to the same realization. The breakup didn't take your power.